You mentioned this concept of the true self and the denied self, and I wonder what some of the signs are that indicate your true self is being denied. How does denying our true self actually hurt us or hold us back from future success?
Yeah, good question. Um, so I talked about the nine, that there's nine core motivations for each type. Um, and when we're in what's called quote unquote personality or our egos, or as I said, when we're fully, embracing the mask, the Enneagram system reveals to us that we've got these associated emotional vices with our personality type. So, and they're also called the passion of the type. And it's not passion like, passionate about going golfing or passionate about eating donuts. John, I'm passionate about eating donuts. Um, it's really like, think of it like a crime of passion. It's the dominant emotional experience that takes over and informs all of our other emotional experiences. So it starts to reveal to us that much of our emotional experiences are actually conditioned in us based on these sort of personality strategies that we have. And what they're masking is, as I mentioned earlier, the more authentic part of ourselves. So each Enneagram type also has what's called the virtue of the type, and the work of the Enneagram pushes us back towards reclaiming the virtue or that sort of lost parts of ourselves, that sort of hidden part of ourselves I keep referencing. So I can quickly just kind of go around and try to illustrate without taking too much explanation. But for type 1 on the Enneagram, the passion for one is anger. They're known as the improver or the perfectionist of the Enneagram. And the story they carry is that that I'm not good enough and the world's not good enough, and I have to set about perfecting it and improving myself. So they set this very high internal standard for what is considered good, and it's an impossible standard to reach. And so there's this constant like battle of anger inside, which, by the way, for this type, they don't think that anger is an acceptable emotion. So they try to hide it. And so it seeps out of them as this sort of resentment. And what they're resenting is that they themselves and others aren't achieving this internalized, self-imposed high standard of what good is. And they self-deceive into thinking, if I can be good enough, if I could achieve enough good, if I can make the world around me good enough, I will actually reclaim the virtue, which is serenity. And that's where the passion of the type is deceiving everybody, because they will never get to serenity by trying to make everything perfect. They will only reclaim serenity when they let go of that false narrative that they're not good enough and that they have to make things perfect. And you can go through each type, right? So twos, they've got the passion of pride, and the virtue is humility. And the pride is that they have this story that says, I'm afraid that I'm not liked or needed or wanted. And so I'm going to set about trying to please people and seduce other people and help other people enough that they will mirror back to me enough appreciation that I will then feel like needed and wanted. And I almost pridefully set about trying to do it, inserting myself into things that I wasn't asked to be in, and believing that I know the best way to help and to offer advice and all of those things. And if you don't thank me for it, then I'm going to experience this rejection and this anger. The humility comes when they realize not everything's mine to do. I am liked, I am needed, I am wanted, and I don't have to set about trying to please and seduce everybody. And so I won't go through that, the example of the rest of the 7 types, but for each type, so when 1 is experiencing a lot of anger, when 2s are in pride, when 3s are in inauthenticity, when 4s, you'd have to read the book to understand fuller descriptions, but when 4s are experiencing envy, when 5s are experiencing avarice, when 6s are experiencing a great deal of fear, when 7s are in gluttony, and when 8s are in lust, and when 9s are in sloth, these are all indicators that we are not living in our true selves. We are living out of the personality. We're living out of the ego. And when you're in that space, this is exactly why I think emotional intelligence work often fails, is because when those things, which are all consuming for each of the 9 personality types, are in charge, there's no way you can make enough adjustments to live a more, balanced life that is more fruitful for everybody around you, because you have the story behind the mask that's fueling the passion that's going to overtake everything else, right? So as you study the Enneagram and as you get to know your own type and what the passion or the vice is for you and your personality, you then start to do the work of, how do I release the false story behind this narrative, and then I can start to reclaim, the lost and hidden parts.